when the market's confused. Steve strolls in with a chart and some probable news. Troy fires up Omega like, let's model this mess, while traders at home whisper, please help me stress test. It's the show where the candles dance. Volatility takes its chance. Steve says rules, Troy says math. Together they chart a hilarious path. Grab your lunch, don't be late. They'll tell you why the market's weird again. Oh, great. They're calling out levels, volatility rebels, equity drama, and index devils. One guy's calm, the other's pressing buttons fast. Is this bullish? Is this bearish? Ah, depends on the past. So tune in, laugh, and maybe learn to. These two make the chaos look almost doable for you. Every Tuesday at noon, hit that stream real quick, because markets are wild, and these two are slick.
Welcome back to the Navigation Trading Show. Troy is handling some business, so we get Matt today. What's up, Matt?
You're stuck with me, man. What's up is this market. So here's the thing. I market watch so much less than I used to because I'm just automated at this point. And my options stuff's all automated. I'm not trading stocks that frequently. And like, Steve, we're not that far away from 7,000 again. Like, are we going to be back at all-time highs? What is happening?
Might happen today, Matt. It just might happen today.
I know. It's just been crazy because we were close. I mean, we weren't close to 6,000, but like I heard people talking about like levels at 6,000 not that long ago. Not that long ago. And VIX is 18 now.
Hey,
and
can I share my screen?
Yeah, please.
Let me something I was just watching this morning that we were talking about in the community. All right, can you see my Thinkorswim? There we go. So this is just a 5-minute chart of SPX on top. Let me zoom in. So this is SPX on top. This dotted line is the kind of the one standard deviation upper expected move to start the day. We, hit that within the first hour and a half or so. Now we're blowing through it. But what was interesting was, so this was so I'm Central Time. So starting at about 9:35 Central, the S&P was still just kind of going sideways and grinding higher. And we started to see the VIX kind of really start to pop. It went from 18 all the way to 18.5 in about 20 minutes. And the S&P wasn't really moving. Well, you see this sometimes when the S&P is at all-time highs, right? Or if it's raging through all-time highs,
right,
you'll see the SPX going up and you'll see VIX going up. Or sometimes you'll see that when there's some kind of news is about to drop and the market knows it before we do. But I don't know what happened. I mean, it went up for about 20 minutes and the S&P was just kind of going sideways. Then the S&P resumed its up move and then the VIX kind of rolled over. So very odd volatility and price action today. I think you're on mute, Matt.
I sure am. I was so excited. This is kind of what I want to talk about is like we're coming out of there's conflict, unfortunately, pretty much somewhere in the globe at all time. But this situation in the Middle East has had an outsized effect on the S&P and all these other financial markets, right? Like I do a little bit of commodity stuff on some single stocks and fertilizer and ag and oil and metals. Like they've all been impacted by what's going on, the Strait of Hormuz, et cetera. And I think my perception is that a lot of people have felt like the market has been, it's just an odd regime. Like you said, like today, it's kind of an odd regime. I had some calendars on yesterday that were up, that I put on Friday, that were up almost 50% yesterday. And like excuse me, in a day, which
Right.
that hasn't happened like in a real, like it can happen, but it hasn't happened in a really long time. And certainly since the war started, it feels like vol has just, I don't want to say it's had a mind of its own, but it's been sticky, but it hasn't, the options market, at least this is my perception anecdotally talking to a lot of people in our community, is that in OO, it's been a really challenging market to trade. At times, the range bound nature has not accurately reflected the volatility. And then you've had these huge moves. We had what, almost a 3% overnight move. Was that just last week, Steve?
Yeah.
Wasn't it? So it's tough. How's NT doing? How are the folks doing?
Yeah, pretty good. I've had a lot of focus recently on double calendars that once I get a little bit of profit, I'm able to transform those into
Yeah.
a risk-free iron condor. So I've been doing a lot of that. Those have been doing really well with, especially when implied volatility staying as elevated as it was for that kind of a period of time.
Yeah.
Calendars were really printing there pretty well. And then once you got a little bit of profit, being able to flip those into something risk-free really worked out well. Now this is, I don't know if you're still sharing my screen or not, but this kind of market where the S&P goes straight up for 2.5 weeks, that's a little bit different, right? That's a big
Yes.
headwind for calendars and double calendars. And so that period's been a little bit more challenging, but I haven't done, I mean, I've done very little 0 DTE iron condors in this
Right.
period. So that's been good because those have not
It's
done
been
well.
tough.
I still do my British iron condors every day, which is essentially like a multiple entry iron condor kind of thing where you're
Yep.
managing the put and the call side differently. And what's crazy is I shared this in my trade results video last week, is that in the same week, I had more double stops in one day than I've ever had. So
Wow.
one of my worst days ever.
Yeah.
And then 2 days later, I had 9 positions, 9 of my 13 tranches for the day, for example, all expired 100% profit.
Which is also unusual. Usually you're getting one or the other, right? Like,
Yeah, I literally had my worst double stop day ever and my best, number of pins in a day in the same week. It's literally bonkers.
so
Right?
here's a question. Were you sized roughly the same for the winner as you were for the loser?
I got a lot of it back. I think the day I had all those double stops, I lost like 12K on that strategy. And then the day that I had all those expire, I made like 10,500. So
So,
not quite there, but pretty close.
well, you didn't do the thing that a lot of people do. They take a big loss and they cut it by half and then they miss out on the big gains.
Right.
So shout out to you, Steve, and shout out. Hopefully this is the navigation trading show. So hopefully everybody here knows what navigation trading is, but I will promote Steve for just a second and tell you what he does. Steve has an amazing community. Should check it out. And he mentioned a minute ago in his weekly results video, one of the awesome things about Steve that is difficult to find sometimes on the internet is the level of transparency and access that he has in his community. And he does, Steve, you do a weekly video. You also do monthly videos, right? In addition to live posting your positions in your community Discord server.
Right. Yep.
So if you are trading alone, you're crazy, in my opinion. Just my opinion, you're crazy. Find a community. NT is a fantastic community. So one of the things, one of the things
Enough glossing. Let's talk about you, Matt.
Well, let's talk about this back test because here's what I was, I kind of do just personally every quarter. I kind of do like a high level, like personal financial overview. So like the end of the first quarter was a couple weeks ago, and the market was down a lot more than it was now. And this is like a dumb back test. And when I say dumb, I mean that in a complimentary way. And I set this one up, so it's okay that I call it dumb. But all this is when VIX is up any day of the week, you're selling a 2020 at the beginning of the day. And this is why I
So
call
if
it
the
dumb.
overnight VIX is not
Yes.
negative,
Right.
you're
Right.
jumping
As
in.
long as it's not right. So the idea is really simple. It's just if you have any sort of elevation in the vol environment, try to take advantage of it, sell a put. And of course, we're doing a put spread. So it's a JSPS, just sell put spread. And here's the crazy thing. If you look at this bad boy, I ran a few different variations. Here it is year to date. And here's what's crazy. At the end of March, when I was doing my personal snapshot, like the market was, I don't know exactly where it was, but it was down a notable amount from where it is today. This thing has still held up, Steve. Like this is still like, now it still has worked even in this market with the vol and these crazy moves. Now, here's the thing. This is actually a different variation. Sorry, this is a 15 delta. This kind of makes my point. Here's a 20 delta, which has still worked. Okay. Here's a 15 delta, which has also worked. Here's a 10 delta, which has very definitely worked. Now, I personally don't love the risk reward on these kind of things, just personally, but a lot of people do. And you can see why.
Because this is just held to expiration, no stop, no profit targets, anything like that.
Yes, it's a trade to illustrate a point. And my point is simply this. If we go back and look through it, all these different variations, starting with this one, going back all the way since the start of dailies, it's been profitable every year, right? And I only have 3% allocation, so you can for sure stress test this, etc. It's been profitable every year. And even this year, it still worked. And what's interesting to me is this is like just one of these fundamental things about the market is if you're in the options business, is that put skew is real, especially on indices, and puts are going to cost in general a little bit more than calls are. And if Steve and I were going back and forth, and I was like, I'm kind of thinking about this for the show today. If you have absolutely no idea what to trade, it's okay to trade nothing. But if you must put a trade on, you could do worse than some sort of concept built around the idea of selling a put spread, taking advantage of put skew somehow.
Yeah, when you sent me this and it was shown, January year to date, right? January 1st through middle of April, I thought, okay, that we've been ripping higher, but that's only been for the last few weeks. Like you said, for the first 3 months, we were basically going down.
Yeah.
And selling puts still worked. And then I did the same thing. I said, okay, but what does this look back to dailies? Same thing you're showing. I mean, it's okay. It's pretty robust.
I mean, this exact setup for anybody who's playing with this exact setup. All of these are variable, right? I picked 2020 because in my mind, it's a heuristic 2020 vision. It's easy to remember for me. You can play with these and make the widths a lot bigger. And I did play with the deltas, and basically any variation of that or a delta farther out of the money, it's still done okay in this market, which is literally the opposite of what I expected, Steve.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm not back testing put spreads every day, and maybe I should be. Maybe I should be, because the thing with this is, if we just look at this, it wins almost all the time. It has to win almost all the time because you're 20 wide and the winners are not that big, right? Even your biggest winner is what, a sixth as wide as the spread. So it needs to win most of the time. But the point is, you can take this and add whatever flavor you want to make it fit your risk reward better and find one that makes sense. And I just did not think that something in the market as dumpy as we were earlier in the year, that something like this would have held up the way it's held up. So
yeah, and using a 20 wide or a 15 wide or 25 wide, I mean, that's that's the kind of thing that I like to use when I don't have a stop loss,
That's
right?
right.
You're just putting it on. You know what your risk is.
Yes.
Put it on every day that it qualifies and let it rip. I like that. Yeah, I like that style.
Steve, have you seen, last fall, we're going back now, it's probably 6 months, but last fall we had Stopageddon, which
Yep.
is a day when stops got really violated at the end of the day on SPX for a couple minutes. How has this year been year to date for stop management and your market fills and things like that? What have you seen?
Yeah, after that happened, I didn't get hurt as bad as some people I know. And yeah, some people got hit pretty bad on that situation. Um, I was doing my British Iron Condors, but I was on they have kind of they call it an REL stop. And so I think that helped a little bit using
Yeah.
IBKR and
Yep.
TAT combo. Um, and then but yeah, that was an issue. I actually had a couple conversations. I have a contact over at SIBO, and he was very aware of the situation. They were, they had heard a lot about it,
Yes. Yeah.
as you can imagine. And I haven't seen anything like that even close since. So I don't know if they
Yeah.
did something. I don't know if that was just a random thing that could definitely happen again. I trade under the assumption that that could certainly happen again, but I haven't seen anything like that. I've had there's been a couple days here where you get those quick news announcements like the war's over and the market shoots up 3%, those kind of things, and you're going to have some slippage. And I've certainly had some of that, but as far as that kind of situation, I haven't seen that since. So, um, that's unfortunate that
Yeah.
that is the kind of world we live in as traders, but that's the
Yes.
risk that you take.
Right. Yeah. Or you just do a bunch of no stop trades. Right. But
Right.
if you're in the stop game, then that's part of it. I would agree. I mean, we get people who ask about they'll do ICs and short. Actually, a lot of short calls this year have been kind of the culprits. And I've seen a lot of slippage reports um, where people are just checking, hey, is this normal? And given the scope of moves we've had this year, there certainly hasn't been anything I've seen widespread stop again in October. But we do live in a very algo driven, news driven society, and there's somebody who tweets, and one tweet can change everything, and it has. I mean, I don't know how many times this year it's been the president of the US will be speaking, and people will be watching it for not for their political positions, but for their options.
Yeah. You watch some of those interviews on if you're right. I always get on YouTube and watch them. And sometimes I just show up for the comments.
Yeah.
You can tell it's just all traders.
There's a lot. I was going to say it's a lot of people trading. So,
but going back to your point about the crazy slippage and stops, the other thing that I do when I do have a stop on is I only put the stop on the shorts only.
Yes.
Now that has saved me. In fact,
Yes.
on one of those days in October on my British Iron Condors, I made like $40,000 just on my longs. And so that's great. But the other part of that is it comes with its own whole bag of risks, right? Which is the whole busted trade thing that we saw happen from what's his name that
Dale,
made a bunch of videos on that. Anyway, it's kind of one of those things. As a trader, we have to decide where we're okay taking risk.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to. And then there's no crying in the casino, Matt.
I know there is no crying in the casino. So I'll post a link to this one in the chat here if people want to mess around with it. But it's literally the simplest back test that you can think about as far as selling a put. So
I like it.
Yeah. So Steve, what else is cooking the rest of the week? You got your eye on any events here?
No, not really. Had PPI this morning, and that was kind of the biggest event. We do have earnings starting this week. We've had some big banks come out. We've
Yes.
got Netflix and TSM on Thursday, I believe. I may do. I like to just dabble for fun, just tiny positions, doing some earnings trades.
Yeah.
I don't make it really part of my core trading at all, but they're fun to trade. And then, but yeah, that's about it for this week. So I'm gonna go watch some baseball. My son's got a baseball tournament in Columbia, Missouri that I have to attend. Not have to, I get to.
You get to, yeah, you get to attend, Steve.
So that'll be fun. But
you get to
other than that,
drive as well, right?
yeah, it's only a couple hours away.
You get to pay for it.
He just turned 16 yesterday.
Okay. So is he going to drive?
He might drive me.
There you go. It's interstate though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't white knuckle it. Trust him.
You gotta push him out of the nest and get him, just
That's right. Awesome. Well, listen, next week at this time, we might be at all-time highs. If we have another 70-point ripper on just some random day when there's still a lot of volatility going on,
we might be there today, Matt.
We might
be there today.
We might. I don't actually. Do you know what the high close was? I think it's over 7, right?
Well, 70.43 was the high tick in ES, and then SPX was. Oops.
Oh yeah, we are close.
SPX was 7002.28.
Yes, I see it. Oh wow, man, I did not realize it. And then it almost got there too the next day as well, and then the day after that as well. So yeah, we're one more day away.
Oh yeah, and yesterday the S&P went green back to green for the year.
Yeah,
and yeah, now we're up about 1.5% year to date.
All right. Here we go. Yeah, when I put my chart in the weekly chart, and it's just like, oh yeah, we were down at 63 in the 63.50s just a couple candles ago, but who knows? Anyway, it'll be fun. So, well, thank you, Steve. Wonderful show. I will drop I'll drop that link in the back test before the stream here cuts off. So thank you all for watching. Have a great day, everybody.
All right, Matt. Take care. See you guys.
Thanks.